I know people all have their favorite holidays of the year, and I do too. Can I tell you a little secret? New Year's Eve is actually one of my favorite holidays. And it has nothing to do with the ball dropping and staying up to midnight. Honestly, I can't even do that every year. But what I love is the fresh start, the clean slate, the blank canvas, and the thought that we have 12 months worth of blank pages that await us, and we can fill those pages however we like. There's just so much promise and hope of what can be in a coming year. And if this sounds too Pollyanna-ish to you, don't worry. I'm going to go full business here because I want to talk about goals. I'm not one for New Year's resolutions, but I am big on goals and goal setting. And I've been a little bit surprised lately when talking with people to discover that either they don't set goals personally or even the organizations that they are a part of don't set goals. And that thought is a little bit fascinating to me because I feel like it's just getting in your car and driving with no destination in mind. And that's fine if your plan is just to have a leisurely Sunday drive, but we don't get in our cars every day like that. So I want you to just dream a little bit with me and think for a moment about what you would love to accomplish this year. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What are some of those big dreams that you've been thinking about but not acting on? And what would you do if this was the only year you had left? Does that change your perspective a little? To me, goals are what turn those dreams from wishful thinking into reality. Goals is where it's at. It's how you make things happen. And if you haven't thought about setting goals for this year, would you be willing to reconsider? Think about that dream or those things that you really want to accomplish this year. If you're able to set goals, then you can set priorities for how you spend your time so you don't lose sight of those things that are most important to you. And if you're not super familiar with goal setting or not comfortable, there are a ton of models out there that'll walk you through how to set a goal. And there's a few that I like. From an organizational context, I like the acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, and that stands for frequently discussed, ambitious, specific, and transparent. So think about that in an organizational context where everybody's working on a team. And we all have goals related to our own performance, but we probably also have goals related to the team's performance. And if we follow that type of an acronym, first of all, frequently discussed. So this is not something that you just, write down in a plan and then stick it on a real shelf or an electronic shelf until the end of the year. This is something that you're revisiting and talking about and thinking about. The A, ambitious, to me, this is really cool because it's a little bit of a stretch. So what is something that might push you a little bit, that might be a little bit challenging? It's motivating to us to have goals that are a little bit of a stretch for us, a little bit of a challenge. If it's completely unrealistic, we're not even going to try. But if it's also too easy, that's not very motivating either. So what's an ambitious goal for you in terms of what you'd like to accomplish this year? Specific, that's found in pretty much any good goal model. But really, if you're not specific, then it's really hard to measure your success. It's hard to know whether you're off track or not. It's hard to stay focused on what your priorities are. So you want to make sure that goal is really specific. And then the last piece is transparent. And I love this because you don't see a lot of this in an organization. If it's done well, everybody would publish their individual performance goals to the rest of the team, and it would be visible. And I always think about, especially in a large organization, how often you have people who have overlapping goals and don't realize it. How much wasted, redundant time is being focused on the same thing, and people don't even realize they're working on the same thing. We just get in our own way sometimes. So being transparent about your goals, that is huge. So I like FAST, but for personal as well as organizational goals, I also use a model that I created, and it's called the B-STAR model. So the B stands for believable, and this is something that I think is a real gap in all other goal models. Believable is all about, do you actually believe you can achieve the goal? And what's interesting is oftentimes we set goals, especially in our personal life, that are more what I call should goals. Like, I should lose weight, or I should go back to school and finish my degree. Well, do you really want to? Or is that just something that you feel like you're supposed to do? Oh, I'm 30 years old. I should get married. Okay. Why? What is it about being 30? So these should goals are oftentimes created for us by other people, and we may or may not actually be that invested in them. And so if you don't believe that you can achieve or accomplish the goal, if you don't really want it, it's not worth even pursuing, because the odds of you actually accomplishing it are minimal at best. So that's the B part of the B star model. And then the S also is specific, just like in FAST, just like in SMART goals. But specific is so important because, again, this is where we nail down what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, why we're going to do it, which the why is so critical, and what type of a timeline we're running on, which takes us to the next, the T, time bound. So a lot of times I think people can get to the point where they're pretty specific with their goal, but they leave it very open-ended. And again, if we don't feel that time pressure, if there's no sense of urgency in actually accomplishing our goal, we're a lot less likely to achieve it. I know for me, I can really turn on the burners when I know I've got a pressing deadline. And so it's the same for any type of goal that you set. So you want to make sure that you set yourself a deadline, and you can build in milestones along the way to help measure your progress, but you've got to pick some sort of date of what you're trying to drive towards to complete the goal. The A stands for accountable. And this is a huge piece, more focused on goal finishing and making sure that you actually achieve what you set out to do. This is about being accountable to yourself. So what are the things that you're going to do to be accountable to yourself? But also there's a massive piece related to this when you think about being accountable to other people. So if you can get yourself to a point of creating goals, writing the goals down, sharing those goals with other people, and then taking it to the next level of having a person or people, but at least one person who's there to help hold you accountable. You know, Laura, you said that you weren't going to commit to any additional volunteer boards, but it sounds like you're considering joining another nonprofit board. How does that align with your goals? We all need that person in our life to hold up that mirror to us. And that is what an accountability partner does. And that's the purpose and the point of having accountability built into your goal. So that's the A. And then the last piece of the B star model, the R, stands for rewarding. Is this a goal that's rewarding for you? What is the why in all of this? Why are you doing this in the first place? Because you're going to have to set aside time and energy and effort and resources devoted to this. So what's the outcome? What's the benefit of doing it? What is your motivation? And so picking a goal that is rewarding to you, that's satisfying, that makes you feel like you're moving forward, that you're accomplishing things that matter to you, that's going to help you in terms of actually accomplishing what you set out to do. Regardless of whatever model you use to set your goals, I do recommend setting no more than 3 goals for the year. You want to be able to have enough time to actually go after these goals. And if you set too many goals, if you're trying to do 20 things within a month, as an example, you're just going to become completely unfocused. It's like that saying, you know, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So get really clear and really specific and nail down. If you could only do 3 things this year, if you could only accomplish 3 things, what are those most important things? And then once you get these goals written out on paper or typed out, but I prefer writing, like I said earlier, it helps you set your priorities. So you can then start calendaring things. You can base your schedule off of what your goals are based on your priorities. For me, I have my goals written out for the year and I keep them on my desk. And I try really hard as different invites come in to go to things, be a part of things. I get really excited and I want to say yes to everything. And I have a practice where those goals are listed out, very visible to me. And when I have that invitation come in, ideally, I don't always do this, but ideally, I would look at that list and say, okay, does this activity align with my goals? Does it help me move closer to accomplishing the things that are important to me, that I've said are important to me, that I want to prioritize, or is this a distraction? So really, really helpful to have those goals visible to you and then use them to determine where your time goes and how you prioritize things. The other thing, and I'll say it again, tell people your goals. And if you're a leader, get curious about the goals for everyone on your team, even development goals. I know we don't want to talk about people's personal lives. That gets scary to some people, but I mean, helping to know about what are your career interests? What's important to you this year? What matters to you this year? What types of things do you want to prioritize? A lot of times in an organizational context, our goals are handed to us from above. It's okay, we're going to set the corporate strategy, and then each department's going to have their own goals that ladder up to that corporate strategy and all the things they need to accomplish. And then the leader of that department is going to trickle down all the goals from there, and everybody's going to have their marching orders. And sometimes we don't get a say in what those are. And I get it. It's your job. You're getting paid to do that. But the more autonomy we have, the more ability we have to influence and to be a part of that process, to have a conversation around, here's the things that matter to me. Here's where I think I bring the most value, where I feel like I contribute the most this year. You're going to have higher rates of success and higher rates of goal achievement if you do that. So as a leader, get curious about what those goals are and help have a conversation with your team and incorporate what's important to them, what they care about, what they're trying to accomplish into that goal setting process, and make sure that you're incorporating their development into that as well. How do they want to grow? Where do they want to go next? What are they curious about? What do they want to learn this year? Those are all really, really motivating things that keep people happy in their roles and engaged in their roles. So it's really important that it's not just, okay, I need you to dot this I and cross this T, and then, you'll get a high performance rating, but it's how can we grow you? How can you be better holistically this year? And then make sure you're revisiting those goals regularly so that you can measure progress, whether it's as a leader sitting down with each person on the team to revisit those goals, but also just, this is where self-leadership comes into play. You need to be evaluating how you're doing against your goals, regardless of whether your manager is checking in with you or not on that. And then finally, celebrate success. We do a terrible job of this. We go through this whole process of setting up our goals, figuring out what we want to do, whether they're personal, professional, or a combination of the two. And then let's say we actually do them. We actually accomplish what we set out to. Make sure you celebrate that. That's huge. There's a lot of times things that come in the way that get us off course. And so if you're able to stay on track and actually get across the finish line and complete your goals, that's awesome. Celebrate that. So I'll close with saying you've got a whole year ahead of you. So much promise. It's so exciting to me. How are you going to fill that year? What are you going to prioritize? And what do you want out of this year? Every day is a gift. Don't waste it. Set your goals and get after them.